What's up, everybody? Today, I'm going to be sharing my first impressions of Doom: The Dark Ages. As of me recording this video, I've played roughly 4 hours of the campaign, so this is just me giving out my initial thoughts and expressing my affiliation with the series, so you guys know where I'm coming from in terms of what I think so far. So without further ado, let's get started. This is a game that I was pretty hyped for when it was announced, because I'm a sucker for both Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. With 2016 being much simpler, tighter, and feeling like a classic shooter campaign with modern bells and whistles, and Eternal being the bigger, badder sequel that ramped up the speed, the mechanics, pretty much everything. It's one of my favorite first-person shooter games of all time. And when they showed off just how different the Dark Ages was going to be from its predecessors, I was pretty intrigued. And now that I've played it for a few hours, there's definitely a few things I need to talk about before I write my full-length review. So there was some pre-release speculation that the Dark Ages was going to have open-world game elements, and after completing the first 5 chapters of the campaign, I can assure you that that's definitely not true. So far, the levels have been just as linear, with secret areas off the beaten path, similar to everything else in the series that I've played. Maybe the game will open up more as I progress, but I don't necessarily see it turning into an open world game anytime soon. I mentioned a minute ago just how different the game looks from its predecessors, and that definitely checks out. As you might have already known from the promo material, this is a prequel game with a medieval theme to go with all the sci-fi and satanic hybrid elements that are already familiar. A lot of the new things they introduced to this game do feel more ambitious, but unfortunately, it all feels like a bit of a step down. As a fan of this modern Doom franchise they've been cooking, there's a couple major aspects here that feel missed, and I really felt their absence. But I would like to talk about what makes this game much more ambitious in design. The game starts off not with the Slayer waking up and immediately killing shit like in 2016, but with more story setups and character introductions. It feels like they're going for a story here that's a bit bigger in scope, with fully dialogue-driven cutscenes and more named characters. But so far, I'm just not connecting with any of it. This could just be my fault since I didn't really read up on a lot of the lore that was dropped in Doom Eternal, but I'm hoping to get some actual major plot points that'll change my mind here pretty soon. Now, the gameplay is by far the most intriguing aspect, and it's where I've seen the most major new additions to the formula. Instead of darting around really fast and doing a bunch of platforming like in Eternal, this is boots on the ground mostly. There are some sections here where the Slayer actually hops into a giant mech or on the back of a dragon for a sequence that's meant to give variety to the main combat loop. But unfortunately, there's little to no variety in these sections themselves. They don't feel bad per se, but they fall pretty flat in comparison to how hyped up they were in the trailers. The controls are just incredibly basic. Now, the main combat loop itself, though, is a lot of fun. The focus on melee and shield tactics on top of the gunplay feels really good. I only wish they didn't remove glory kills entirely, but overall, I think they're doing a really good job with the style of combat they're going for. It's also worth noting that so far the game was a bit easier than the previous two. The shield parry timing is way more forgiving than most games with parry mechanics. I've been playing on the Hurt Me Plenty difficulty, and I've only been killed once across the first 5 chapters. I mean, that's not necessarily a complaint or anything, not every game needs to be super challenging, but I personally recommend kicking up the difficulty one level above what you'd usually pick for one of the previous games. The last thing I need to talk about in this very short video is, of course, the music. It's good. It's metal. It feels doomy. But Bitwarden's departure from the soundtrack department is very noticeable here. His music is such a huge part of what gave the modern Doom games their legacy, so the Dark Ages music just can't help but pale in comparison, even though it does still slap pretty hard. So overall, so far, it is a very unique entry in this franchise with just a couple of drawbacks. but for the record, it is a really solid game so far, with a lot of good game design and really fun combat. I just hold the previous two games to such a high standard that I can't help that it feels like a step back in comparison. I'm hoping to be able to appreciate the game for what it sets out to be on its own, once I've gotten the full experience. If you've made it to the end of this video, thanks a bunch, it means the world to me. So hit the like button if you enjoyed what you saw, and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Peace out, everybody.